When will we see Watson play for the Texans?
I think week 1. Look, when we were talking about the draft, I thought Houston most needed a quarterback. I thought Watson would wind up in Cleveland because they had the 12th pick. They were going to get their pass rusher first, and then they were going to get their quarterback of the future. If you're in a place like Cleveland, no reason to start right now. You know, they don't have weapons. They don't have an O-line. They're far away from winning. You can learn holding a clipboard, even for an inferior quarterback, and avoid taking hits. You know, I mean, even the Giants did this with Eli Manning. Of course, they had Kurt Warner at the time, but no O-line, and they weren't really ready to win. But that's not where he went. He went to the Texans. Deshaun Watson went to a team that has everything you need to win a Super Bowl except the quarterback. And lately I've been hearing a lot about how talented Tom Savage is. And I actually think Savage is pretty good. I think now that Glennon has been signed, other than Kaepernick, Savage may be the best available, soon to be available, you know, kind of replacement level quarterback around who hasn't really been a starter. But that's not Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is a next-level winner, an excellent athlete, among the most determined players we've seen come out of college, like, ever. And if you mean to tell me that even if right now supposedly Savage has the job, but there's an open competition in the sense that Watson could take it from him, I believe, given that challenge, Watson ain't losing. He is not the losing type. If he thinks he has a chance to win it, he'll go out and do that. From the Texans' point of view, since you have everything else you need to win, why start a quarterback who couldn't win the job in an open competition against Brock Osweiler last year? Why not start a quarterback who gives you the best chance to win? And I believe by week 1 of the season, Deshaun Watson will have done everything in his power to prove that. Because of the team he's on, I think Watson actually starts this season.
As usual, Max has most of the facts, but they're completely irrelevant to the point at hand, which is why he loses us all. The issue in question is not about what Tom Savage can do. It's about protecting the investment that you've made in Deshaun Watson. Putting him in there too soon, putting him under the gun, understanding the system that he's playing for, the expectations. A guy like Bill O'Brien, whose most productivity has come from Brock Osweiler with an 8-6 record since 2014. 8 different quarterbacks have thrown the football for the Houston Texans under Bill O'Brien, and not much can be said of it. They're not losing all the time, but they're certainly not winning all the time. So if you've decided to invest in a Deshaun Watson, I expect to see him about 5 or 6 games into the season, Damien, but I think it's one of those situations where you want to make sure he's mastered the playbook. You want to make sure you've got in those reps, that practice time. You want to make sure that you can communicate with him in a fashion that can facilitate, once he gets in, him staying in there so you don't have to look back, as opposed to rushing him early and ruining everything, particularly considering the hotbed that they're under. When Rick Smith, the general manager, came on my radio show last week, he said that it's going to be competition for the job for a reason, because they know why they moved up, they know the investment that they're making, and they realize they have to be very careful with Deshaun Watson.
Well, listen here, Steve. The clock is ticking on Billy O'Brien and GM Rick Smith right now. Okay, so if you're the Houston Texans, why have a guy sitting on the bench when you have the supporting cast that could aid in his development? You got the best defense in the league that didn't have J.J. Watt last year. You got offensive weapons. You got DeAndre Hopkins. You got Will Fuller. You got the Miller kid at running back. You got a good offensive line. So if there was ever a situation where you could put a rookie quarterback in, now's the situation. I played in a situation like that with the Jets, where we had a really good line, really good defense. We put Mark Sanchez in. We went to two straight AFC championship games. I think right now, if you're the Houston Texans, you can't afford to wait on Tom Savage. You saw what he could do in 2 games. Why do you think they went up and got Deshaun Watson? Because, listen, Tom Savage, he's a guy. He's just a guy. If you want to take it to the next level.
He's not Savage.
No, he's not Savage. No, you're right about that. He's not Savage. If you want to take it to the next level, put your guy in there, Deshaun Watson, that you've heavily invested in, and let him learn. He's not going to learn on the bench.
Tom Savage's presence on that team is the reason they traded up to get Deshaun Watson, because they got everything else they need.
Yeah. Throw him in the fire.
I agree. I'm not refuting that, and I'm not refuting what y'all saying. I'm saying that they're going to be under the gun to be very, very careful. I'm not talking about leaving them on the bench for the entire season or 2 years, anything like that. We're just talking a few weeks because you want to make sure that all the figurative I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So once you make that call, you don't have to look back because of some of the other decisions that they've made. You can make a legitimate argument that they've impeded the development of potential quarterbacks because of how they've handled situations in the past. They don't want to do that again, which is why I don't believe they're going to throw him in there from week one. I think you will see him after a third or a quarter of the season is played, but I don't think they're going to rush him in there.
He needs that quarter of the season. That's what camp and preseason's for.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, Stephen A.
You see how little they play in the preseason?
Change, if you're going to make that change at quarterback, that's usually because you're losing. If you're winning, you're not going to make that change. And if the Texans believe that Savage doesn't give them the best chance to win, which I believe by the end of training camp, Watson will demonstrate that, why would they play him? They have Super Bowl aspirations. They can't wait till there's a quarterback controversy because they can't win and then make a switch. And if they're winning, they wouldn't make the switch.